Welcome to the Real Estate Masters Podcast, where we interview the top names in the real estate game. If you want to grow your real estate business, see more podcasts, or get free resources, go to www.remcommunity.com. The only podcast that allows you to directly connect with the guests and many of the highest level names in the real estate game.
You are in for a treat with our next guest. Do me a favor, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and don't forget to go to remcommunity.com to connect with some of the highest level real estate professionals in the United States through our community and through our high level masterminds. Let's go.
Welcome to today's show. We have Lauren Brychell on the line. She's with Spartan Investment Group, Inc. 500 rated real estate investment company. We're going to talk storage units today. That's been a hot topic probably for the last 15 years. I think 15 years ago is when I really started hearing about storage units. From what I understand, very hands off. You don't have to deal with tenants. You don't have to deal with toilets. You don't have to deal with that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Lauren has to say about storage units. So Lauren, welcome to the show. I appreciate you joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Tony, for having me on.
Yes. So I'm excited. I love things that people aren't talking about a lot. So I know 15 years ago, again, I think it was a hot topic and then it faded out. I don't know if it became too competitive. I'm not sure what happened, but you don't hear about it quite as often. But what appeals to me again is not having tenants, not having toilets, and that kind of thing. So let's start with where you got started in the self-storage business, kind of where you got now, what you have learned through that process, and any value that you think you can give, and then we can kind of conversate on that.
Sure. Well, I'll start off with Spartan. So Spartan Investment Group, they were founded in 2013 by Scott Lewis and Ryan Gibson. And they actually started in kind of the multifamily condo conversion type of side of things. And then in 2016, they saw the market shifting and they wanted something that was a little bit easier to manage, a little more recession resistant. And that's when they got into storage. So ever since 2016, that's really mainly what they've focused on. I joined Spartan in 2019. I started off by setting up and doing their property marketing. So at the time, I think we had 5 or 6 assets under management, a couple of storages, a couple of RV parks. So I really took those kind of individual marketing pieces off the ground, learned how to market these self-storage facilities and RV parks and tertiary markets, which is a totally new thing for me. I came from a background of, bringing tech companies to market and CBD oil companies kind of public. So it's totally different, but all that experience was helpful. And I was able to kind of think outside of the box on, how to market a RV park for long-term workers out in the oil fields of Texas. So super interesting. Since then, I've transitioned into the investor relations side of Spartan. So I help investors place capital, speak about our deals, all kinds of stuff like that on a daily basis.
Awesome. Great. So there's 2 things I kind of want to dive into, and we'll go left and then we'll go right. So on the left is just storage units themselves. So, like I said, it was a hot topic, 15 years ago. I think that's when, social media kind of started taking off a little bit, and there's just like, this buzz around a lot of different things. So tell me about self-storage. What do you love about it? What are some things you've learned? If someone wanted to get into the storage space, how would you recommend they do that?
Sure. Well, what we love about it, like I said, it's pretty recession resistant. Even during 2020 and COVID times, we didn't see a drop in occupancy or anything like that. If anything, we saw an uptick just because people were, in their homes. They were like, okay, we need our garage back. Let's get this stuff out of here. Easy to maintain, easy to evict. So, on the housing side of things, it takes a long time to evict a non-paying tenant. Within storage, I think it's 30 days, if they don't pay, and you can auction their stuff off. So that's great. We have a lot of ancillary revenue incomes that come from, the self-storage facility itself. So we can add U-Haul to the property for an extra stream of revenue, UPS, FedEx drop-offs, ice machines, stuff like that. So there's a lot of different ways to bring in revenue other than just the storage tenants themselves. And I would say for someone getting into storage, start kind of small, go to some conferences and learn how to manage them, learn how to market them. Even though they're a little bit easier to manage than other assets, they're still tricky in the sense that there's a lot of legal things with the evictions and the tenants and timelines and all kinds of stuff that you need to know. So going to conferences, learning all you can about them, and then starting small. Don't start with 1,000 units. You start with a couple hundred and you go from there.
Okay, awesome. And how hard is it to raise money for that kind of thing? So actually, I skipped another question I had. So you asked about that, or you talked about value add. So that's something I never thought about with value add, because anytime you can buy anything and add value to it. So on the residential fix and flip side, it's obvious you renovate the property, you sell it. On commercial, there's some of that where you renovate and then you stabilize, rent long-term, or resell. But on the storage unit side, obviously occupancy can be raised. But then you mentioned U-Haul and some of those other things. Is that part of your value add where you take facilities that don't already have that, and even if you don't raise occupancy, kind of take those things that you can add, additional income to, and then all of a sudden the property's worth quite a bit more just by doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of ways that we add value. One way that we add value is just operational improvements. So a lot of times when we buy these little mom and pop facilities, they're not collecting rents. The rents are super below market rates. So we'll raise the rent to the market rate just to bring that economic occupancy up to the physical where it needs to be. We will have a manager there that actually shows up and answers the phone. You'd be surprised at how many times that's not happening. So bring in great customer service, new branding, kind of make it pop, clean up the facility. We do improvements like repaving the drive aisles or fixing the roofs if there's leaks or things like that. And we also like to improve them by expanding them if we can. So a lot of times we'll look for facilities that have extra land or a huge parking lot that we can potentially add more units to. So that's kind of the two main ways that we improve.
Awesome. Cool. So from a standpoint of your strategy, I looked at your guys' portfolio. You said you've only been doing storage for not too long, but your portfolio looks fairly impressive just in that period of time. So from a standpoint of raising money for those types of things, that's one thing I kind of wanted to touch on. And then also, what's your exit strategy? Do you guys turn them around and resell them within a year to 2 year period? Do you keep them 5-10 years? Or are you keeping them long term? What's your strategy for raising the money, and then also your exit kind of towards the end?
Sure. So so far, raising the money has been fairly easy. We have a huge investor network, and they really trust us. We've never lost investor capital. We really conservatively underwrite all of our deals, and we go and put a 675-point due diligence checklist, put the properties through that checklist every time before we buy it. So we do our best to mitigate any issues up front. So that keeps our investors reinvesting because they like how our projects are going and they trust us. And we're very open and transparent every month with how they're doing and what improvements we're making, what kind of marketing we're doing to bring in new tenants. So I would say it's pretty great. And a lot of the properties are cash flowing. So that's also a plus for investors to kind of make it look like an attractive deal. And the other part, what was the other part? Strategy? Yeah,
disposition. Do you guys keep long-term? Do you dispose after a certain amount of time, or what's your strategy there?
Yeah, so we usually look at about a 5-year hold. So either refinancing the current investors out if we decide to keep the property, or, potentially selling our whole free up portfolio after 5 years or so to a REIT or someone bigger would be kind of our exit strategy. But
Gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha. Cool. How's the competition right now? I feel like it could be a very competitive industry. If someone's doing it and they're doing it well, there's probably some big players in it to where they're going to find the good deals, I feel like, and snatch them up. Am I right about that? Or there's still a lot of deals out there that can be found. You just have to find them.
Yeah. Both. You're definitely right. There's a ton of competition. There's a ton of REITs that have a bunch of money. They're coming in and snatching up huge portfolios. But there's still opportunities out there. So a little bit farther and few between, a little bit, lower cap rates, but still stuff out there. We've actually tripled our acquisitions team in Q1 of this year just to get out there and find all the deals we possibly can.
Awesome. So it's not the traditional method of marketing where you're doing postcards and text messaging. It's you're probably, finding business lists, maybe going online and seeing what's available. Are there any other strategies that you can give us that you can, kind of tell us would be good to help people find storage facilities?
Yeah. I mean, we definitely started off by sending postcards, and we got a few of our facilities that way. So
Really?
that old method's still not dead, but I think it's all relationships these days, having people with the broker relationships or the seller relationships, so maybe having that relationship so that they like you and they want to sell their facility to you. I think that's what kind of makes us stand apart and helps us with our deal flow, is just having people out on the ground, making those relationships. Yeah,
one of the things you mentioned was investors. So I've been investing for 20 years now, and literally the first deal I did, I raised investor money, and I've been doing it ever since. And one of the big things that you kind of touched on was you've never lost money for an investor, which I can say I'm in the same boat. Over 20 years, I've never lost an investor's money. I take really good care of my investors. I treat their money like it's mine. And once you get, and you can kind of expand on this, but once you get someone into an investment and you give them a return and you do what you're going to say you're going to do, like that to me is huge, right? Like you say you're going to give them a check on every month, making sure it's on time. When you're giving them, to me, when I'm giving someone a return, like a lot of our deals are fixed returns, so that's easy. But I'm getting into some deals that are more like a little bit variable where they can make a lot higher, but I'm giving them like, here's what I expect it to be, but I'm giving them like way higher returns, right? So from people that are raising money, some people think it's really hard, which if you're new, it can be harder. But what are some things that you guys have done to help with that investor pool? Obviously, you've got more longevity, but just from your experience, what are some good ways for people to find money and get investors into the game to allow them to do deals like this?
Sure. I think it's super important to, same with kind of the acquisitions team, for the investor relations team to be out and about. We go to conferences, we go to local meetups all around the country, just to meet investors face to face. It's a lot easier to, know, like, trust people when you actually meet them. You have a real conversation about life with them and not just talk about, an investment opportunity. So a lot of our investors are like personal relationships, and then referrals from those relationships and, friends and family members, and they refer to their other friends and business partners and all that. It's a lot of word of mouth. It's a lot of getting out there and, having them meet you face to face and just know that, okay, these are trustworthy people. They know what they're talking about. They're smart, So it's like, okay, let's dig further into those details of the offering after we've kind of met them and, understood what they're all about.
Yeah, that's a big one. Referrals are a big deal, because if you treat people right, you do what you say you're going to do, not only are they going to invest more money, but people who have money hang out with people with money, right? Exactly. So it could be exponential. I've got my CPA, I found him, I think 8 or 9 years ago. And then he learned what I was doing, and he's like, oh, wow, I want to invest. So he started investing, and he sent so many investors to us. I want to say it's probably somewhere between 10 and 15 investors that are investing with us at any point in time. So, and I've got other investors that have done the same thing. So treat people right, they'll invest more money, and they'll send people your way. So
exactly.
Great. So what other value can you add to our listeners? What other lessons have you learned in this space? Obviously, real estate it can be very lucrative, but also there's like deals fall apart all the time. You could think something's going to go right, and then you do your due diligence, and then all of a sudden, something can blow up last minute. And there's a lot of lessons learned from those deals that don't happen, or even deals that happen that don't go the way you want them to be. So any kind of lessons that you can share that you've had in your real estate world that you can kind of share with us?
Sure. Yeah, I would say, probably the number one biggest lesson that is instilled in us every day through our co-founders, Scott and Ryan, is transparency. Be transparent, no matter if it's good or bad. We had one of our RV parks get hit by a tornado right at the beginning of COVID last year. So it was kind of a double whammy of, the oil fields kind of shutting down, and we got hit by a tornado. And so the park wasn't doing so well for a while there. And we sent out a video update every day. We had Scott flew down there in a heartbeat. Every day was a new video, it's with an update email. Just things are going to go bad sometimes, and you just can't help it, but you need to tell your investors, be super honest about it. Don't hide it. Tell them how you're going to fix it. Tell them exactly what's going on, so they're not wondering, oh my gosh, like, where's my distribution this month? What happened? Because they're going to be a lot more forgiving if you're open and upfront this is what happened. This is what we're doing to fix it, before, 2 months goes by and it's like, all right, what's going on? I think our investors really love that and respect that. And it's like, okay, it's okay that happened. We'll invest in the future. You're transparent, you're honest, and you're doing all that you can to fix the issues. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've got one deal right now that one of my investors is invested in, and it's not going really well right now because the borrower did some things that were not above board, because we're doing funding for other people's projects as well. And that's one of the things, super transparent. Once, things started happening, fully transparent with them. And actually it's kind of, I have such a good relationship with this investor that if he doesn't get his money back, I'll write the check for it. It's one of those things that it's worth it for me to lose that money and gain that investor's respect. And I've never had to do that in any other investment, but 20 years, finally, I've got a deal that I'm like, okay, now I may have to write the check for, but they've been really good to me, and they've invested in millions of dollars in deals. So for me to do that's not a big deal. So another way to take care of your investors is communication. And then sometimes you just have to step up and do what's I don't want to say what's right, because honestly, I don't have to do that, but it's one of those things that I just feel like I should do because they've been so good to me. So, well, great. So, I guess we can start wrapping up. I mean, we've talked about money. We've talked about getting into the storage business, no toilets, no tenants, recession proof. Anything else that you want to share about the business before we kind of start wrapping up?
Sure. Yeah. Well, we're super excited. We launched a national brand in Q1 of this year. So we transitioned 13 of our current self-storage facilities into our new Free Up Storage national brand. And everything we acquire here on out is going to be also a Free Up national brand. So, standardizing everything from our customer service to our signage to everything, so that, no matter if you go to a Free Up Storage location in Georgia or Colorado, you're getting the same exact top-notch experience, which is, it's going to bring our customers, our investors, our portfolio a lot of great recognition, SEO presence, purchasing power. So that's been something we work on. We're really excited about. We're wanting to acquire 24 new storage facilities in 2021. So we definitely have our work cut out for us, but we're super excited to get that brand in every state, hopefully.
No, that's great. That's another thing I did forget to touch on. You said customer service. You said getting someone in the facility that actually answers the phone. Like, to me, that is a huge thing in all of my, so I have multiple businesses, and I'm like, if people answer the phone. If you don't answer, at least get back to them within, like, in our business with real estate, you need to get back within an hour, because that could be $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 profit deal that goes by the wayside, right? So adding value that way, just with customer service and something like that, I bet is huge, because if you have someone that doesn't answer their phone, that could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 clients a month. Potentially you could be missing out just by not answering the phone or not returning the call. So that right there can be a big thing. And then I think you touched on, like, just the experience, right? Like, because when you walk in somewhere, or even when you're just talking to someone on the phone, there's a huge difference between a company that knows what the heck they're doing and just a company that doesn't care, right? Yes. You can feel it, and I can tell by the way we communicated by email that you guys are do things like a certain way, and it was very I know I can just feel it from you guys. So adding value that way, and just being of service and making the experience better in anything you do, doesn't matter whether it's self-storage or wholesaling houses. You're going to get a good name by providing great service, and then you're also going to get potentially a bad name by not doing things the right way. So absolutely. Well, great. Well, thanks, Lauren. I really appreciate you coming on. Hopefully those that thought about self-storage, it gives them a little bit of an in on what they should look for, and kind of maybe a little bit, some nuggets they can potentially push them towards that edge. Or, there's some people that want to maybe invest money and just want to say, hey, I love self-storage. I love the concept. It sounds great. And maybe they want to invest some money. So I'm sure you guys are still looking for more investors. So if someone wants to get a hold of you for any reason, whether it's investing or anything like that, where would you like them to go? Sure thing. Yeah. Shoot me an email anytime at Lauren@Spartan-investors.com. Spartan-investors.com. Lauren at, okay. Yep. All right, fantastic. Well, thanks again, Lauren, for adding value to our community, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks for listening. Now go to www.remcommunity.com to connect with today's guest, see our high-level masterminds, and to get free resources. Don't forget to share this with a friend and leave us a 5-star review. We'll see you on the next episode.